federal government on Tuesday, June 29, 2021, announced the arrest of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, during a press briefing with journalists, said the IPOB leader was arrested and repatriated to the country on Sunday.
Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, the self-acclaimed leader of proscribed IPOB, was sometimes back arrested precisely on the 14th day of October 2015 on 11-count charge bordering on terrorism, treasonable felony, managing an unlawful society, publication of defamatory matters, illegal possession of firearms, and improper importation of goods, among others. You may also recall that a judge at the Federal High Court, Abuja, on the 28th March 2019, revoked Kanu's bail that was granted him on health grounds and issued a bench warrant for his arrest on the same date over his failure to appear in court for hearing. He has, often jumping bail, been accused of engaging in subversive activities that include inciting violence through television, radio, and online broadcast against the Nigerian state and institutions. Kanu was also accused of instigating violence, especially in southeastern Nigeria, that resulted in the loss of lives and property of civilians, military, paramilitary, police force, and destruction of civil institutions and symbols of civil authorities. Self-acclaimed leader of the proscribed secessionist indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has, for your information, been intercepted through the collaborative efforts of the Nigerian intelligence and security services. He has been brought back to Nigeria in order to continue facing trial after disappearing while on bail regarding 11-count charge against him. Recent steps taken by the federal government saw to the interception of the fugitive Kanu on Sunday, the 27th day of June 2021. Nnamdi Kanu was born on the 25th September 1967 at Afrauku, Abia State, Nigeria, and indeed a holder of Nigerian passport number A05051368827, first issued on the 17th October 2013 at Festac, Lagos. For your information, distinguished members of the press, Kanu is as at now being produced before Federal High Court in continuation of hearing of his case in respect of which he has evaded and indeed jumped bail.
The IPOB leader wasn't captured while entering into the High Court, but an eyewitness identified as Eric, who was present during his entrance, said he wasn't arraigned. Instead, he was brought to court by the DSS.
He wasn't arraigned.
Okay.
He was brought to court by the DSS, and the lawyer to the government told the court that the man Kanu had been at large. He was granted bail earlier in 2017 but since then he jumped bail and has flouted the bail conditions. So he now applied that Kanu be remanded in the custody of the DSS and that the trial be accelerated so that the case can be concluded on time. The case was initially adjourned till October 20th, but by his application, the court brought the trial back to July 26th and ordered that it should be remanded in the custody of the DSS pending then, and asked the prosecuting lawyer to inform the defendant, the lawyer to the defendant, so that they can attend court at the next date. And then after proceeding, Kanu sought the permission of the court to talk and said he was absent in court. He had been absent in court because his house was invaded by some people who killed some people, and that he didn't want to be killed. That was why he has not been able. That's why he went underground. Has not been able to attend court. It wasn't that he deliberately absented himself in court. So the court told him to liaise with his lawyer so that he can prepare for this. He looked okay. He was clean shaven, although he was brought in court earlier. Hooded. They removed the hood and he was looking well. He was dressed in black tracksuit. That was all.
Well, that was
Nnamdi Kanu. He had little megemu like your own. That is white. That is grey. So he looked well, okay, and he spoke well. He looked healthy.
Also, a lawyer identified as Marshal Abubakar, who was at the scene, said the IPOB leader was bound with handcuffs and leg chains, and his face was also covered with a hood.
Nnamdi Kanu was brought to court today. We witnessed they bringing him to court today. Officials of the DSS and the Nigerian police. It was a combined team. He was brought to court today, and we're here where they brought him. I saw him in hood and handcuffs and leg chains. And then we went back to the court to see what was actually happening, because I recognized the person to be Nnamdi Kanu. Well, actually, he was brought before, there's already a trial ongoing before the Federal High Court. So he was brought before the Honorable Justice Nyako for continuation of his trial, having jumped bail previously. They applied that he be arraigned, he be kept in the DSS custody pending a date for the continuation of his trial. The court granted the application and ordered that arraignment should recommence on the 26th of July 2021. Until then, they have the order of court to keep him in their custody. Yes, I saw when they brought him in. He was black, he was on hood, he had his hooded mask on his face. They covered his face with hood. It was leg chains and hand chains, and then they had two DSS operatives helping, I think, drag him along to the Federal High Court. I saw the DSS officials. Of course, we have close opposite working relationship with the DSS, so I know them. Of course, we know each other. I had a conversation with them when they came, so we had a discussion with them. Nobody was aware. It was shrouded in secrecy. I learned the AGF granted an interview or a press conference where they informed the members of the media, of the press, the Fortran, that they've arrested Nnamdi Kanu and that he will be arraigned in court today. So there was a press conference to that effect. But while you guys were at the press conference, he was being brought to court for arraignment and for another to detain him. Well, the retrial, if it's a retrial, question of trial, has started again. We know that as far as we're concerned at this stage, Nnamdi Kanu is still presumed innocent until proven guilty. There are constitutional provisions, safeguards to ensuring that fair trial and fair hearing, which are rights that every accused person is guaranteed under the Constitution, is complied with. So we will keep our fingers crossed to see how this plays out. And we also watch the state to ensure that his right to fair hearing and fair trial are complied with.
Omoyele Sowore, a human rights activist who was also at the scene, said Nnamdi Kanu's arraignment had been done before he arrived and he wasn't allowed a lawyer.
Well, I heard that he was brought to court today. It was completely a surprise. They said he's been arrested since Sunday. I don't have information about where he was arrested, where he was detained before his arraignment today. But going by what we saw in the courtroom today, it's already worrisome that he was hooded and could barely breathe, and he was handcuffed and roughly treated in court. Incidentally, the guy who brought him to court is the same guy who abducted me in this court in 2019. So I worry for him, but I rushed here from home, when I say home where I live, to come and witness whatever was the situation with his arraignment. But by the time I got here, the arraignment had been quickly done and he's been taken away to a detention center that I presume is the DSS headquarters in Abuja, or somewhere, one of their secret detention centers in Abuja. He was not allowed a lawyer, from what I learned. But we had lawyers who snuck into the courtroom to witness the so-called arraignment or rearrangement in front of Justice Binta Yanko.
Recall that the federal government had earlier labeled IPOB a terrorist organization, which led to his first arrest in 2015 on charges of treason. In 2017, while on bail, Nnamdi Kanu fled the country. He used his Radio Biafra station, which broadcasts from London, to call for an independent state for the Igbo people.